Morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How we doing today? Got the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Dan Fazio, up here on the stage joining us this morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Sorry, I didn't
Mr. Andrew in the
clear
audience.
clear my throat.
What's going on, Dan? You sound a little sick today.
No, no.
David, Simone, Bando, Felipe, MD Souffle, Aaron, Icy Cold Lava, Mr. Bob Sadai, Stephanie, Rick Bin, YNS, Delaney, Delian. Pardon me. How are we all doing today?
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
Get my cam turned on here. There we go.
Rocking the cap backwards. I love it.
Yeah. Well, it makes my head look more aerodynamic, I found. So that's what I would like to. It's kind of like I kind of look like the new Mercedes. You know what I'm saying? It's like how it goes like backwards. Like yeah.
The analogy I like.
Tilt the cap forward, you kind of look like a Porsche, but Porsche look doesn't really fit me.
You're more the Mercedes man.
My head's more shaped like a Mercedes body, so that's
Love
what
it. How's everybody doing? How are you doing, John?
Day is off to a fantastic start, Bob.
Well, that sounds really awesome, John. You're so mellow today compared to. I can't believe it's a Monday or a Wednesday today. Woo! Let's go. Everybody, I'm so excited.
Well, I mean, Matt Riley was telling me I need to take it down a notch, man.
I wouldn't listen to Matt Riley if my life depended on it.
Oh man,
Matt Riley isn't even here. Matt Riley took it. Matt Riley took it down a notch so far that he doesn't even show up anymore. I'm joking.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, today's off to a great start.
I know, Matt.
How you doing?
What's that?
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you, buddy?
Doing great. How about yourself, Bob?
Fantastic. Fantastic. Sorry I missed everybody yesterday. It was just one of those days, I'm hoping that it's one of those days that, I get it out of the system for the entire month or year. Let's get going back to what it should be like. So looking forward to this live stream as well as the rest of the day. Got a buttload of stuff to do.
Thanks for
Mr.
joining us
Matt.
today.
Rinse and repeat Riley.
Am I in the right room? I didn't mean to show up here. Hold on a second. I meant to is this not? I don't want to name the channel.
I think you probably need to submit your application again one more time since of your absence.
I get it. Yeah, like a probation period. I need a reevaluation to make sure everything is still above board.
The day that happens, Matt, I'll bow out.
We're all out of here.
I'm out of here.
I don't know if any of us are passing that test.
Mr. Paul, how you doing,
Morning.
buddy? Good morning.
Oh, pretty good. About to hop on to CoStar, do some comping right now.
Ooh, fantastic. Is it for an Aplex or not?
Yeah. It sure is.
That's fantastic. Awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. What you got cooking up there, Paul?
Oh, nothing. Just helping friends out and just helping them run some numbers. Just trying to help convince sellers in DFW that cap rates aren't necessarily where they were last year or the year before or the year before that. So we've got to make some adjustments these days.
Where cap rates are still good, Paul?
Miami?
No, they're horrible.
Yeah.
They're horrible. They've always been horrible. They've always been horrible.
No,
Everybody knows you don't buy in
you're
Miami.
willing to take a
You
lower.
don't buy in Miami for cash
Cap
flow.
rate. Yeah.
No,
Same with California.
I had some clients. I had a really cool deal I was looking at for some guys. 32 units in a really cool part of town in Dallas Fort Worth that I thought was like a pretty sweet redevelopment play, and it was listed at $5 million, and NOI was like, I don't know, like 200,000, and and like the broker had skipped out. What did he not put on? And this is why it's important, guys, to KYS on all your stuff, right? Because this guy's quote unquote pro forma. And
since Matt Riley posted that in the side chat, you've literally just like you printed that on a t-shirt, dude.
Hey, bro.
dude, I
You
seriously,
say
every day.
you say KYS more than Bob says pad split.
Don't let him
Dude,
feel. Don't make him
it's true.
feel. You feel
Come
bad
on
about it.
now.
It's so true. It's so true though, because like I'm looking at this rent roll and expense sheet. They've got property taxes that like haven't been adjusted for like 15 years. They're missing vacancy rates. They're missing like property management fees. They're missing all this stuff. So the cap rate was like effectively like a 2.5% cap rate. And I was like, even in this area, which is really nice, it's like a Class A area. It's a Class B type of building, B minus, really. I was just like, man, there's no way. And the seller wouldn't do anything creative. I was like, would he do a carryback? Would he do assumption? Nope. He just wants cash. I was like, we're not going to get this across the line for anything over $3 million. It's got to be $3 million or less. And they were like, no, we can't do it. I was so mad. So this is not the only deal. So now I'm doing another one, running comps for a buddy of mine on an 8-plex that is kind of the same scenario, you know, different, but same.
I think it's pretty commonplace when, especially on like LoopNet and Crexy, when you look and they're claiming it to be a certain cap rate or a certain cash on cash, and then once you get the OM and you look, you're like, oh, you excluded like 50% of the expenses. You didn't include any of those things, which made it look a lot better than it really is.
Yeah. I just don't understand why, because now it just pisses everyone off because you're as the listing broker, you know that people are going to double check your shit anyway. Right. So it's like, all it does for me on the buy side is just frustrates me. It's like, well, are you incompetent or a liar? Which one is it? And like, it makes me mad at that point. And I'm just like, well, who am I about to deal with?
Hey, Paul, can you explain what cap rates are for Jake? Asking you.
Oh, yeah. So capitalization rate is really for the purpose of real estate, kind of like a valuation metric here when you have two properties that are cash flowing, but they're not necessarily exactly identical, right? Like, so Bob might have an 8-plex hypothetically, and I might have a 32 unit apartment complex in this other part of town. They're going to cash flow. They're going to have way different cash flows, but if we can break down how much income they're generating versus the value of the property, we can start making a closer comparison to those properties to kind of know what the market as a whole looks like for an asset class of this type and this condition and this location type of thing. So it's a cool way to do that. And yeah, you can look up the formula if you want. It's like NOI over property value equals cap rate.
Boy, you went through that really quick.
I know.
And you introduced a couple new variables. One of them was NOI. For anybody in here
Yeah,
that
I
doesn't
mean,
know.
here we go. Like,
LOL. Is that similar to LOL?
I think it's similar to KYS. That's what it is similar to.
LOL divided by KYS equals.
NOI is
Bruh.
just like, hey, how much income is this property generating? And we take that to the proposed sales price of the property. It gives you a comparable rate in which you can measure other cash flowing properties of a similar type. But they're not always going to be exactly like when you're pulling comps, You can pull pretty close square footage on single family. You can pull pretty close neighborhoods. You can pull similar build years. When you get into larger units, it's a little bit tougher, right? Like all of a sudden you're like, well, there's only one apartment complex over here with 15 doors, but there's one down the street, but it's 35 doors. But so it becomes a little bit more challenging to compare them. So we're comparing them off of the money that they make rather than some of the more subjective stuff that you see in homes.
So specifically looking at the cash flow that this asset is generating to judge its performance, to evaluate its performance.
Yeah. You're just trying to see, is it doing what it's supposed to do compared to the other properties in the area that are also designed with a similar purpose, right? So you have to do digging after that, because like once you say, okay, this looks good, it's advertised at a good cap rate, you have to continue to do digging, because sometimes people are going to tell you how much their expenses are, and they might fabricate those numbers, or they might say, hey, our income is projected to be this, but realistically they've got 2 or 3 guys that haven't paid rent, or they've got they haven't been putting any money towards AC repairs or budgeting those oh shit line items like a big roof repair, so you have to kind of account for those down the line. So there's a couple like little things like that you've got to kind of get into the weeds on and analyze. But cap rate's kind of the first step, right? It's kind of my napkin math test, my like litmus test to make sure things look good, and I want to keep exploring. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Would you say cap rates are one of the most important items in multifamilies?
I mean, that's where I start. I don't really stay there. I don't think they're very valuable outside of that, after that at all. It's like where I start. And then after that, we're getting into the weeds. We're looking at returns on stuff, right? So depends on what my clients want. And honestly, I let them handle that on the underwriting side, but they start looking at things like IRR based on like what their, internal rate of return based on what their projections look like, how they want to sell the property. Do they want to sell it later on down the line? Is this a guy who's wanting to buy it, up the rents for 5 years, sell it? What does cash on cash return look like? How much cash are they committing, and what are the cash flows returning, and what's that percentage look like? All that type of stuff. Because leverage is really nice in real estate, right? We all buy on leverage, and that allows us to control something worth more than the money we have committed to the project.
Hey, Paul, you're going way over my head. I don't understand anything you're saying. How about if one day next week we give you like 20, 30 minutes to talk about commercial real estate and specifically multifamilies. And you just take it over and talk to dummies like me about what cap rate is, what NOI is, all of that fun stuff. And
that's
and
like
your
showing up
process
to
of
Paul's
what you
door.
got.
You just did the equivalent of showing up to Paul's door with like a
Help me.
bouquet of roses and like a
I
bottle
prefer
of
to hear
wine.
from Paul over the other commercials.
He's like,
person we have.
what? Me?
Oh, you shouldn't
maybe.
have. No. I think there's definitely some stuff that we can do. I'll probably, if we do that, we'll keep it just straight up like on the basics, and then maybe some tools
absolutely.
and stuff that you guys can use to go learn about it on your own. Because like I said, on the brokerage side, I do a little bit of the underwriting and analysis, but ultimately there's a nerd out there that cares way more about their own money than me. I say, hey, this smells like a good deal. You might want to make sure it checks out, type of thing. That's really my role in the transaction at that point, but definitely can get you close. Happy to do that.
Something where, if I'm a newbie and I have no idea about multifamilies, where do I start? What am I looking for? How would I know if when a quote unquote deal is brought to me that it actually is a deal? What numbers, what factors do I need to look into to say, okay, this could be a deal. I better take it to Paul and double check, and maybe he'll want to partner up with me and we can make some money together.
That's a good point. That is a good point. Okay.
Right.
We can do that. It's going to end up dovetailing into you two, Bob and Matt, about all your creative finance stuff. I mean, ultimately.
Dang it. All right, fine. If it has to.
I don't want any more homework.
I'll just like hand it off to you guys after.
At the end of this call, we're going to give all of you guys a worksheet, and if you don't do it, we can get back.
There you go.
Dan pointed out, now I'm gonna have to put that whiteboard to use in the background.
You got
plan out my REI Rev week here.
yeah.
I think it's important though, whether it's residential or commercial, to, obviously the word deal gets thrown around a tremendous amount, whether it's in this community or anywhere else. That's
anywhere.
That's the buzzword always is, I got a deal. And it's just like, and I've seen John do it, and I've seen other people where they say, is it a deal or a lead? And I think those are big distinctions. And I think, so whether you're on the residential or commercial, I think what we're talking about here is very important in identifying, whether it's a cap rate or cash on cash return, just some of those simplistic things that you look for when you're just initially at least doing the sniff test on a property or on a lead, to convert that from either to a deal or to the dead pile. And you're like, that's not, I did my sniff test on it. I did my cash on cash return. I did my cap rate. I did all of these things, and it doesn't shake out. So I don't think it's a good deal. So then you're not spending all of this additional time either on things that don't really make sense.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Yeah. It's been a big challenge for me, just having clients trying to buy. I have a lot of clients that are new real estate syndicators. Like, they're younger guys. They're kind of my age. I'm 33. They've just got all this capital rounded up, and now they're like, okay, let's go buy an investment property and make all of our investors a ton of money. And then we get out into the marketplace, and they're like, I want a deal. And we look around, and there's not a lot of deals. There's a heck of a lot of leads, but not a lot of deals. Not a lot of deals to put in front of them.
I mean,
I'm sorry, man.
especially on the commercial.
Matt got me with that one, dude. I couldn't low key. That was good.
I'm not a real
That was good.
guy. I had to put it in your terminology.
That was good. That was quick.
I had to put it in
I couldn't hold that one in.
But I think it's the same, like I mentioned before, like LoopNet and AKA PoopNet and Crexy and all these other ones. Like, there's a huge database of properties on there. Are most of them deals? No, probably not. And again, once you learn the basics of just a quick sniff test underwriting, whether you're doing it on a piece of paper, on a whiteboard, or you have a spreadsheet style calculator or something like Bob has shown, or I believe we have it in the resource section now, where you can legit spend 10 minutes, as long as you have the figures in front of you with the current gross income and some of the expenses, or even if you don't have the expenses, learning enough where you can estimate what maybe expenses would be for a property like that, so you can plug it in and at least get a general understanding of what the returns look like on a property, and then deciding from there, are we close? So again, like, cash on cash return might not be something you're familiar with now, but for me and Bob and others like us, we like a 15% cash on cash return and above. So if I input these numbers, let's just say, into my spreadsheet, and I have the income and I have some of the expenses, and I'm kind of estimating the other ones, and I put it in, and that cash on cash return comes out to 5%. I know that probably even if I get the really, really accurate numbers, I'm never going to get to that 15. We're very far off. We're 10% off of where I need to be as a basis, as starting threshold. So that's probably not going to pass the test. And I'm not going to spend any more time on that, likely going to the agent or going to the seller and gathering the information and spending more time. We're probably way too far apart. So let me go on to the next one. So when I input the next numbers on another property, that one shows up as like a 10 to 12. Okay, we're pretty close. We could maybe, if the numbers are a little bit better than I think they are, we might be able to make something work here. So at least passes the initial sniff test for me to put more effort and time into it, as opposed to, again, it just drives me crazy sometimes watching people spend exerting so much time and energy on one thing, on one property, and then at the end of it, they're like, "Oh, that wasn't a deal." And it's like, you should have known that from the very beginning, though.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Giving yourself the tools and the resources to identify something much, much quicker. So now instead of you spending all day on one property, on one deal, you can now comb through 50. I could underwrite probably 25 properties at least a day if I had all the figures in front of me and I had the time. Easily could put it in my calculator and do the numbers.
Yep.
And there's people that will spend all of that time on one just to find out it wasn't a deal. So I think learning those basics is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And then this, everybody, is just step one. I mean, learning the basics of these types of deals is just the first step so that you know whether you should go. I mean, this is the wholesaling of multifamilies or, commercial. Okay. So what you want to do, just like in your single families, you want to do a lot of wholesale deals so that you get really good at it. You get comfortable with the numbers and what terminology is, like TRT or NOI and stuff like that. And then you can move on.
They're gonna get confused, Bob. They don't know TRT.
Don't confuse these people. If you don't know what TRT is, DM me after the show.
Yeah, I was gonna say, good segue.
Wait, let me DM you right now. No. So once you learn all of this and you become comfortable at it, now you can graduate from wholesaling to perhaps creative or other aspects, fix and flip, buy and hold, whatever it is that you want to do. Okay. Same thing with commercial, same thing with multifamilies. You want to learn these basics first, then you can move on. I mean, just like what Matt said. So just to give you a preview, just like exactly what Matt said, if the cash on cash return is 5%, okay, you at this time need to pass on it and go to something that's closer to 10 to 12% cash on cash return, then try to see if you can negotiate and make it work. Okay. But for Matt and me and Andrew and Dan and John and Paul, maybe, just maybe, a 5% still might work because we know different ways of making it work. Okay. So for example, in California, okay, I am never going to get 15% cash on cash return. Okay. But I might buy it solely on the fact that I know that it's going to appreciate, okay, in the next 2 to 5 to 10 years from now, okay? And I'm only counting on the appreciation, not counting on cash on cash flow or anything else like that, okay?
Just to clarify
one example.
Before you go on for that, I want to clarify it to people. If you were to do that, though, and bank on appreciation, right now, you would pretty much either have to do creative or you would have to buy cash, correct?
Bye, baby. I would, yeah. I mean,
or I would here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me personally, I don't do commercial like multifamilies and stuff like that if it's not creative. I just don't want to pay cash on multifamilies in general. Okay.
And just so people understand why that is because why I say that is because right now, with the way that the interest rates are and how much you would have to borrow and then how much you would have to pay back over time, you can't bank on appreciation like you used to be able to bank on it just simply because you're going to end up paying out almost just as much or maybe maybe a little bit more depending on if the property doesn't appreciate like it should or if it takes dips. You're not going to end up making your money off of the equity growth like you used to be able to, like in places like Miami and Los Angeles and New York City.
Right. And that's from Mr. I don't know. I'm not in real estate business.
Well, I mean, this is why I'm not in the real estate business personally. For me, is because
I know too much.
I'm in the private equity industry just simply because of the fact that I believe that private equity, appreciates faster. It can appreciate greater. That's just my opinion. But if you can string creative deals and do those type of things, then it makes sense because if you can get an interest rate at two something percent, and then the mortgage is already somewhat paid down, and you give the seller a decent amount of money up front, that's maybe only $20,000 or $25,000 up front. I mean, if you can rent that property out for 5 to 10 years. The odds of you making money off of that property are very, very, very high. So, I mean, that makes sense. But to come in and buy, like if you were to come in and buy inside of my building right now for the prices that the units are selling, you're not going to make money. You're not going to make money off of it. You're not going to, you can't come in and be like, oh, I'm going to buy because, you know, it's an investment. It's no longer an investment. It's a loss, most likely.
Which could,
So we just went
again-
under contract.
Sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I was just going to kind of shed some light on this. So we just went under contract on a 7-unit property today. It's like a 5,200 square foot 7-unit property. It's like 5 1 bedroom, 1 baths, and then 2 bedroom, 1 baths. And it had been on the market for a little while. The seller had a hard time moving it because, to Dan's point, to some points being made here, the interest rates are so high right now that on a property that's substantial, it's tough to kind of get a decent net. So the way that my partner and I set this up with the seller and with our bank is that the seller, we offered them, so we're getting it under contract at $580,000. Total income on a yearly basis, annually gross operating income is $70,680. Net operating income is $58,000. But what we had to do to make it work on our end, because we don't buy properties with less than a 20% cash on cash, as far as for our acquisition. So to get it to work with interest rates being close to 8%, we had to have the seller come in on a second lien at 10% for 10% of the mortgage amount or the purchase amount. So we're going to put down 10%, they're going to hold 10%, and the bank's going to finance 80%. So the seller, though, is going to be at 0% for 5 years. So that helps us on that front by just reducing, $58,000 worth of that debt load from an 8% to a 0% helps on the nets every year. So right now, the way that we're approaching this property is total real net cash flows after mortgage and everything are going to be about $12,000 to $13,000 a year, which is not fantastic. But our cash on cash is 20% even at those numbers. So the way we see it is marry the house and date the rate. Rates will come down. It might not be for 3 years. It might not be for 5 years. It could be next year. Who really knows? But we know that this is a stellar asset, and that once rates come down to closer to that 5% range, our cash flows net a year after everything will turn up to about $26,000 to $27,000 a year. Now that's a property that we want, but we can only get this kind of deal on this property right now because of the interest rate environment. So for us, and I think for a lot of acquisition, businesses out there that are looking to acquire multifamily, you have to both get a little bit creative, but also understand that it's a little bit of a more long-term play. So for us, while we'd like to see that $25,000, $26,000 net cash flows a year in year one, we know for sure that rates will come down at some point, and that once they do, this asset is going to be producing double, if not more than double, because of raised rents, the net cash flows that it's throwing off right now, which will provide us with either A, a better refinance opportunity in the future when the rates do come down, or B, a really strong exit on it if we want to offload it for $750,000 in a couple of years when rates are closer to 5%. So for my partner and I, a lot of it is, we really do live by marry the house and date the rate, because one thing is certain, and that's that a good asset is a good asset, and that rates are always subject to change at some point in time.
So Andrew just went from kindergarten to college.
Yeah, you want to know how I know Andrew was in the mortgage business? Is he says, marry the house, date the rate.
Date the rate.
That's how I know he was a lender.
People.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that line right there. But it's funny because it really is just a line that takes a very complicated thought process for most people and condenses it down, which is many decisions that you make in life are temporary and some are permanent. So if you love where you're going to be and you want that home, don't let interest rates stop you from buying that home, right? If you qualify, just go get it. And then at some point, you just circle back and you reduce the cost of that debt, because the only thing that is certain out there is that we can say with 100% certainty that rates will not always be 8%. They might not fall as quickly as we may want them to in our world. However, they will come down. So you kind of have to use that line to, I think, for a lot of people, bring them back down to earth and kind of get rid of that kind of dysfunction, that thought process in their head that they're so hung up on the cost of the debt, which is very important. But at the end of the day, if you find a good asset, you find a good asset. And if you can be a little bit more patient with the money, then the long term looks a lot better. So some plays have to be 3 to 5 year plays. It's not the way my partner and I really like to do things, but this is also a different type of asset. We're not flipping this property. That's not the intent of it. We may sell it in a couple of years when rates dip and more buyers come to the market for this type of property, or we might just hold on to it and continue to reap the reward of this asset. But you really do have to find balance in everything, because if you focus solely on the rate and solely on the cash on cash and solely on all those things in this market right now, you will certainly miss out on some really stellar opportunities that will come to light in a couple of years.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
you really have to buy though when things are like you have to buy the right stuff, and you have to continue to buy. Like that has to be your move. Like you can't just buy one house and I'm never just gonna buy it. Like to me, buying a house and waiting 10 to 15 years to make 200 grand in 10 to 15 years is like bonkers to me. Like I don't even like, to me that just doesn't even like, I don't, because $250,000 10 to 15 years from now is not $250,000 now, and even $250,000 now is not even a lot of money. So to me, it's like, for me to wait 10 to 15 years to potentially make $250,000 off of one asset, to me it's like I might as well just not sell, right? Like to me it's like I might as well just hold into that property and just make that cash flow. But like, you know, I think that has to be your situation long term, but you have to continue to keep buying. Like I think the biggest mistake that people make in real estate is they buy one house and then they wait, and then they get mad at the government, or they get mad at the situation, or they get mad at the environment of the economy because they bought one home, 20 some years ago. And they were like, oh, well, it's not producing as fast as I thought it would. It hasn't gone up in equity. There's no way, so like, I don't know. To me, it's just like to wait that long to make that small amount of money, to me, it would just not be worth it. But I understand if it's your model to keep buying, like, obviously, like you're an individual that will keep buying, keep producing, use that asset to leverage to buy more assets. I mean, that makes more sense. But to say,
Yeah.
oh, like I would never tell someone to buy a house right now in today's market, especially in Miami, because to me, it just wouldn't make sense if that's going to be their actual home that they're going to live in. And they're going to wait, 15, 25 years to pay a ridiculous amount of, interest for at least 10 years. So, I mean, and that's assuming that eventually that the economy will get better. That's assuming that they'll maintain a good credit score and a good credit rate and a good job, and the economy will continue to produce money for their job flowing business. Like you're doing a lot of assumptions for the fact of just banking on possibly making close to 500 grand in 25 years. To me, it's just it's just not worth it.
That's why you teach those people to not buy one, but buy 10 or 10x that, by 100, through creative, especially, okay, through terms.
Yeah.
And then when interest rates go back down to 3, 4, 5%, sell half of them, pay the other half off. Now you got 5 or 50 free and clear houses that are going to cash flow plus their appreciation.
That's it. And the way we look at it, and Dan, you made this point, which is for us and our strategy, because we're a little bit more of like there are several different facets of our business that involve real estate. So we use a lot of things like cross collateralization, short-term collateralization on our existing properties to get us into other properties. And then you have the parts of it too, where, I'm refinancing 2 properties that we have right now. And, it's that internal conflict for me where, I have 2 properties that are right now at about a 4.5% rate under the same kind of mortgage umbrella. And we tend to get our properties reappraised within at least every 18 months, just so we have a good, gauge of where we are. Not necessarily that the equity is what we're after, but more so the weight of our portfolio and how everything's looking. So we kind of did this reassessment, and we were thinking that these properties would come in somewhere around, 300,000. It's a 3-unit and a 2-unit in a place called Duncannon, PA, which isn't necessarily, it's not high income, but decent price. Well, we got the appraisals back, and the appraisals came in closer to 450,000. We only owe 151,000 on these things. So for us, we're not going to go and necessarily, we're deciding right now, do we refinance them or do we use those two properties as, something we can cross collateralize to get into additional loans? Because just say we can get 150K out of them or more and cross collateralize them. Well, that 150K can now get me into, a $750,000 asset with 20% down. So for us, it's kind of like an accelerant because we want to be by the end of 2024 closer to a $15 to $20 million portfolio. So we can only do that really right now in this environment through creative deals, a little bit of love or help from the sellers, as well as through cross collateralizing our properties to get into these other deals. That way we can expand a little bit more quickly. So every business has a different play. However, what is very important is that if you're going to get into acquisitions, you have to go for it. You have to really go to volume because the numbers don't really get all that exciting until you have several $1 million worth of real estate in a portfolio. You're not going to get rich off of $10,000 of equity growth per property per year and a couple $1,000s worth of cash flows. But if you have $20 million worth of property growing at 4 to 6% a year in equity, and on top of that, you can get them refinanced, pull out more debt, whatever the case looks like, you can all of a sudden start to really see the numbers work. And for us, the cash flows act as more as a support to our other sides of our businesses, to carry interest, to carry the debt from private lenders, to carry all those types of business operations. So for us, it's a short-term and a very long-term play. They serve their purpose today for us, but they're also going to serve their purpose in 20 years if we have a $100 million real estate portfolio.
So Andrew, I got 2 points to say based on what you just said. First, what Andrew said, ladies and gentlemen, you got to understand, this is why me, and I know PDRE at least backs me up on this, we always harp on this point. You got to know your buyers. There are different types of buyers. There are fix and flippers, there are buy and holds, there are buyers like Andrew, there are buyers like me and Matt or Dan. There are different types of buyers with different strategies, with different mentalities of what they want to do. Okay, so you got to grow your buyers list all the time initially. Okay, so to know, hey, if this lead comes my way, maybe Bob and Matt aren't the right buyers for it, but maybe Andrew is. Okay, maybe Andrew wants to do a burr, but Bob and Matt don't want to do burr. So maybe this works as a burr, and I'll go to Andrew. That's number one. Number two is, Andrew, what you said about one property doesn't really excite you until it gets into the millions. Perfectly acceptable, and I appreciate that. There are, however, different types of investors. Most people probably aren't, in the mentality that you and perhaps me and Matt and Dan and John and Paul are, where, we get excited with the millions. They might just be happy with, one property, 2 properties, 5 properties. That's all they want. They just want to make sure that their monthly expenses are met every month by their asset or assets. Okay. You and I, yeah, exactly.
And I also want to say that that's a very admirable goal, is to just meet your expenses through real estate. I think that a lot of people should start there.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, what Andrew is saying, everyone, is, it's fantastic. I personally don't think it's for everyone. I don't think everyone's going to reach that level. It's just Andrew's desires and goals are different than most people's are. Okay. So if you can get to where Andrew is, more power to you. But he's worked his ass off to get where he is. And that's why those other extra zeros at the end, okay, excite him more than just having 1 or 2 or 3 zeros.
Right. And I can appreciate that, Bob, because it really is a sliding scale. It's that to each their own, right? For us, we certainly started with the sole intent to just pick up enough assets that could cover our personal bottom lines, right? And then it grew into, well, wow, the business is growing. Can we acquire more of these things to maybe also help support our company's bottom line? And then as the company grew, that sliding scale increases for us. So it's all relative, right? We have to, in our world, continue to add these assets that cash flow because as we expand our ground up construction and as we expand our flipping business and all these other little facets, the more net cash flows we're receiving on a monthly basis from basically not having to lift a finger, the more we can expand our debt load. So it is completely all relative, everybody. I'm certainly not saying that 2 rental properties aren't good enough. It's whatever it is in the eyes of the beholder, right?
Yep.
So just focus on getting your first one. And then from there, I think your goals will change and develop over time, or maybe they won't. But at the end of the day, just start with one, and then you'll see where it takes you.
And that's what Brent Daniels does so perfectly well. I mean, he talks about that first check that he got that you will get, that first $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 check that you get, and it just breaks your brain. And you go, holy shit, this is actually possible and doable. Now you start thinking differently. Now you start to think like a Bob, and then you'll start to think like an Andrew, and then you start to think like a Dan, okay? Or whatever, okay? So just start with that first one, and then when your brain breaks, now you're free. Now you can go on and grow if you want, okay? If you want. But know that we're here. And I completely agree with Supreme John and John. I have no idea why we're at a 46 audience member out of 12,000 people. I put that post out there that, whatchamacallit, I guess it was like a poll.
You know what I think it is? I think we need to collect more data from people that are joining. We need to get their emails and their phone numbers, and we need to send out email blasts when we go live.
Okay.
Try to get them on different ways, contact them on different platforms, not just Discord.
Well, what I'd like to know is, what do you guys want us to talk about? I mean, we have people here. Supreme John, good to see you, buddy. He's one of the few people that joins us on a regular basis on stage. Okay, you don't feel like joining us on stage? No problem. Put your questions on the side chat, but let us help you. I mean, that's the whole purpose. I mean, maybe we should charge everybody $5-10 a day. Just join us. Maybe then we'll get some more serious people, or more people thinking, oh, there's some value here. What are they talking about? I don't know.
I do think that I gave that a little bit of thought too. I like, what we're doing right now. I wouldn't change anything about what we're doing right here, right now. But for the people that do want to kind of be in proximity with higher earners and people that are trying to take their real estate career to the next level, if we could offer something else, something in addition to what we already do here every day, and then charge for it, I think we would attract a different type of audience, people that are paying attention, because a lot of people I know everybody appreciates the time that we spend here, but I think that the engagement is just probably lower because it's so accessible. I think that's you know what I'm saying, like, everybody, we're here every day, so it's like there's no urgency, there's no scarcity. And when there's no scarcity, there's less demand. So if we can create some sort of scarcity to say, hey, if you want to be a part of the higher level mastermind that we're going to host, of course we're going to keep doing what we do here. But if we were to offer, an additional mastermind, maybe like once, twice a week, 3 times a week, and it's a paid to play kind of thing, like you have to pay to enter the room, I think we'll get a higher level of intent from the people that join us there. And I'm not saying that we're going to change anything about what we're doing here. I don't think we should, but I think we should explore the possibility of offering an additional opportunity to get around people that really want to take their career to the next level. And people that are serious about taking their career to the next level won't have a problem paying $100 to be in proximity with people that are really taking this business serious.
Yeah, I agree with that, but those are 2 different topics in my opinion, honestly. That one topic is, on one hand, the first topic is, how do we grow this audience from being 45 to 450, okay, to 4,500? Because we've got numbers. We've got over 12,000 people that have joined us. Let's say only 10% of them are active. That's 1,200 people. Out of those 1,200, we're not even getting 10% of those showing up on a daily basis here. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is what you're talking about, John, which is providing something extra where people can rub elbows with high net worth people or people that can bring some sort of value to them where they want to actually learn. Okay. So that's a different topic. And I completely agree. We should definitely have that too. Okay. But
So Bob,
the first topic is
to touch on what you mentioned about why we have so many people in the Discord and why aren't so many of them really engaging. I just want to say, we have recently gotten a lot of attention and traffic coming from TikTok, and this is something that I expressed very early. Like, guys, the intent on TikTok is so low. People are just literally like, they don't know what to do with their time, so they sit around and they scroll all day.
Yeah.
And then they see, oh wow, this is how I've made $10,000. Oh, it's got to be easy. Let me just tap a couple buttons. Then they join the Discord, but they're not engaging. They're not becoming a part of the community because they just don't have I'm sorry, but they don't have the capacity to really do too much. They just don't. So they're not really our main audience or our main focus. I feel like we really need to double down on following and connecting with professionals, people that are actively pursuing this business. And that's not to discourage anybody that's in here today that has come from TikTok. If you came from TikTok and you've stuck around and you're putting in the work, you're putting in the effort to make yourself better, I salute you. And we're here for you. We want to completely help you in any way that we can. But the majority of people that are scrolling through TikTok, they have very low intent. None of those people are really intentionally living their life. They're just kind of being like pushed around in any direction. So it's like, it's a completely different demographic from the types of people that we want to attract anyway. So they're not even going to be on the same frequency that we are. And they just wouldn't even consider clicking to join us because they're too busy wondering if Domino's has a discount on garlic knots. So,
Do they? Do they?
so
Yeah, look, I'll just say this, like, I think what we're doing now is pretty good. I just think, like, for the other room, like, for people who are doing deals, that should be, like, another thing, like, maybe another channel to where if you really want to take your wholesale or real estate business to the next level, like, you want to add in the systems, you want to add in, the automations, add in, the serious, side that comes to the business, then that'll be something that people should pay for because that just shows that you're willing to pay for somebody's time, for people's time, effort, and so to really step up. You know what I mean? Like, everybody that's big in the industry, even to this day, have mentors that they're still paying, like, so that kind of just, shows you that, what we're doing now is pretty good. But for people who want to advance it and take it to the next level, there should maybe be some type of, you have to pay in order to play.
I do agree, John, and I think we're going to continue to give the community all the resources that they need to build a foundation and get started and make money.
Exactly.
But like you said, man, for people that really do want to take themselves to that next level, we got to figure out some way to really give a lot of value to those types of people and also create some sort of differentiating factor from the people that are just casually showing up and tuning in for entertainment and the people that are very serious and living an intentional life, saying that, hey, this is the career that I want to pursue and I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is, because when you pay, you do pay attention, and that's something that I can stand on because I've spent thousands of dollars, in mentorships that I didn't even pursue that same industry, but it all got me to where I'm at today because I paid the money and I paid attention and I learned different things, from these different courses and mentors, and it's all really an investment in yourself. So we just kind of want to, I think, align with more people that are willing to invest in themselves.
So Ricky T says the engagement's low because these newbies getting shit on and scared to ask questions. Dan, I think you need to change your name from Dan Fazio to Dan the Truth Fazio.
I was gonna
Okay.
say Dan Ramsey. It's what somebody called me Dave Ramsey one time in the DMs, and I was like, dude, I personally think that Dave Ramsey actually tears into people a little bit harder than I do sometimes, to be honest with you. I've heard Dave Ramsey say some pretty like direct, like hard hitting stuff, but
But this is what people need.
listen, though, but
This is what
at the
people
end of the day,
need.
I had so like first of all, I know that we do have young people in here. I know we have like 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, but like for the most part, I would say that 95% of us are adults over the age of 18.
And I will say that when I
Aspiring,
was,
hopefully, to make money.
yeah, I will say when I was 11 years old, I had an instructor of mine who was like actually mean, like if you guys have ever seen the movie, I can't think of his, like, he's like the drum instructor. He like won an Oscar award for like his performance in that movie. Bob
Nick Cannon and Drumline.
No. The movie where
Whiplash.
what's his name? The bald guy played
Hey.
Whiplash. And that I had an instructor very, very, very similar to him. To me, that's me. Like, to me, that's taking it too far. You start throwing shit, like, I personally, like, I'm tough on people, and I always try to end everything that I say on like a positive note of like, you need to do this because you need to get better, right?
Yeah.
And if you keep doing this, you're going to continue to go down a hole. And so, personally, I think that a lot of people don't get the correct amount of criticism that they need in their life, and that's why they've ended up in the positions that they've ended up in, because they haven't been
Exactly.
given enough tough criticism.
That's right.
Whereas, like, I used to think growing up, my dad was really hard on me. But like now I really understand that, my dad was never mean to me ever. My dad was just telling me the things that I didn't want to hear. And that was hard for me to understand sometimes. But now I appreciate what he said to me more now than I did back then. But honestly, I think a lot of people miss out on getting tough criticism because, and that's why you end up being in the positions that you're in. But listen, if you're going to be in the entrepreneurial space, like, life is going to get really tough, and you're going to continue to hear more shit on a consistent basis from sellers and whatever. And it's just like the guy that I came up here yesterday that I kind of like, that I was fucking with a little bit yesterday. Like, I was doing that on purpose. And at the end of the conversation, I ended it with like, I know that's not who you are, and that's why I kind of threw you out into the water, right? Because I know that's not how you talk to your friends and people that you speak to on a regular basis. So why are you talking to us this way? And I think he understood what I meant at the end of the conversation. But the point of it is just really like, I think people who have a situation where they have a hard time taking constructive criticism that's a little bit harder are people who are not going to be able to be successful in the entrepreneurial space. And you don't have to be in the entrepreneurial space to be okay with your life. I just feel like most people who come in here are looking for an answer of like, what do I need to do to not be like everybody else? Like, I'm assuming that most of you are in here because you don't want to be like everybody else. But to not be like everybody else, you're going to have to go through some shit that other people aren't willing to go through, right? So like that's the whole reality of being an entrepreneur is if you want to have a different life than everybody else that you see living, if you want to be able to make checks that give you $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in 20 or 30 days, you want to be able to make $50,000 to $100,000 a month, I mean, in a business that you're just running by yourself. I mean, John's about to make a check for $100,000. He's running the whole business all by himself. Like no one else is doing that, right? No one else is going to working for Amazon every single day, making $100,000 in a month all by themselves, right? They're working for a company that's paying them out maybe $5,000 at the month at best. And that's if they have tenure in the company long enough. So if you want that type of lifestyle, if you want to be able to have the lifestyle that, me and, some people that I've been able to put myself into contact with are able to now have, you have to be able to be willing to have gone through everything that we have gone through mentally to be able to get to where we are.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. I promise it's not easy.
It's not easy. And John's going through it right now. And John's going through everything that I went through 2-3 years ago inside of his mind, inside of his space, inside of his head. He's going through the same things that I questioned in myself, doing these things. I've seen it in him. And he's achieving things way faster than even I achieved them, which means by the time that he's my age, he's going to be way farther ahead of me than where I was when I was 25, 26. So if you are younger than me, right? If you're younger than Matt Riley, if you're younger than Bob Sadai, but you probably are. If you're younger than Paul, if you're younger than Andrew, you have the ability to come in here and to be able to learn some things that are not going to be so easy to be able to achieve, but you guys are going to be able to get to much higher levels much younger than where we were able to achieve them. And the younger you can achieve success, the farther up you can go, because time is all of our limiting factors of what we can achieve, right? That's personally why I don't invest in real estate, is just because I don't want to be limited by time. I don't want to wait 15, 20 years to make $1 million. That's just me personally. But I also understand, like, he's a very aggressive buyer. Matt's a very aggressive buyer. So I understand their point of why they're developing their models the way that they are, and I respect them for doing so. It's just not my style of how I want to do things. But I think if you feel like I'm someone that's too hard or too difficult to you don't like my tonality, the way that I come off, it's just like, this is just who I am, and I'm not gonna change. I can't change who I am. So it's just like, I personally respect people more who are just who they are. And if you have a problem with it, like, I don't really care, this is just who I am, right? As long as they're not hurting anybody, as long as they don't mean bad for anybody. Which I don't, 100%. I don't mean bad for anyone. So as long as you don't have that, I personally respect people more, even if I'm not 100% agreeing. Like, I don't personally 100% agree with what Andrew just said 15, 20 minutes ago. But I respect what Andrew's doing, and I can respect that he's like, I don't give a fuck what you have to say, Dan. You can do your private equity shit, I'm gonna do my real estate shit. And I respect that he has that mindset inside of his head, right? So if you have to be able, you always don't have to like everything that I say, but you should at least respect my ability to be able to say it.
100%. So there are a couple of comments in here. Let's see. One of them was check who hasn't been active in X amount of time and kick them out. Okay.
Let's do it.
By Simone.
Y'all want to start?
I personally think that'll cut out all those, people who came in looky-loos. Okay. It'll get you more clear facts, more clear numbers, okay, of who's real in this community. Okay. Will it hurt us? Could. I mean, if you're going from the marketing perspective, saying that you've got 12,000 members and growing compared to saying I've got 3,000 members and growing, okay, difference. There's a difference there, okay? And if you've got 12,000, more people are going to go, oh, I wonder what's going on there. But what kind of people are you attracting then? Are you attracting more looky-loos, or are you attracting more serious people then? Okay, so I personally don't have any problems with that, but that's a John decision. Liar says, then you won't see my questions. I hope not, Liar. The whole point of this is to encourage people to come in and learn and be realistic, okay? If we tell you something that you don't like, if it hurts your feelings, look inside, okay? Why am my camera's off? Sorry, guys. There's a great saying that says, when you point a finger at someone, okay, saying, hey, you hurt my feelings, 4 other fingers, or at least 3 other fingers, are pointing right back at you, okay? So you need to take a look at yourself and figure out what is going on. What am I doing wrong? Am I being real with myself or not? And that's the whole purpose of this show, okay? The other one was, maybe because most people are in school or work right now. Well, that's why I put that poll. It was like 4-1. Everybody wanted this hour, okay? Yep. And so we're giving you guys different options, okay? And seeing which one would benefit you guys the most, okay? And 4-1, they're saying this hour works best for them. And if you're at work or school, you still have the ability to go on YouTube and watch and listen. But I don't know what the interaction is. How many people are viewing these StreamYards or YouTubes that you put on, John? I don't know those numbers.
Yeah,
are they low?
It ranges. The engagement is really here during the live show. I don't see.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not even paying attention to if anybody's like making comments on the side chat or that kind of stuff. It's really like just a replay. Just a capture of what's going on. But the real value
Yeah.
is being here every day, live. Here, this is where it's at.
I mean, when you look at different programs that come out where other mentors, gurus, or whomever that are selling, one of the biggest things that they always put up is, hey, we're going to have this 4-week, 8-week, 12 weeks, whatever. Okay, live Q&A for you guys so that you guys can come here once a week and ask your questions about what we just taught you. Well, shit, we're here every single day, Monday through Friday, where you guys can come and ask your questions and you don't have to pay a penny. So I don't know. Maybe they're right and we're stupid for doing this.
Maybe we ought to try to get some other influencers involved. Maybe some people that have established audiences to come and join us, as guests, and see if there's a way that we can try to invite the people that follow them to come in.
Maybe some guys from Investor Lift.
Oh,
here's the challenge. Here's the challenge with that I can see. Most people like those guys, okay, they're doing the business, okay. If they'll agree to this, okay, but probably not at this time of the day, okay. Especially if they are on the East Coast, you're talking about right in the middle of their day, right? They're busy working. They might agree to like the 6 or 7 p.m. Eastern time where we have live streams or podcasts at those times. Yeah. They're more likely to come on those hours than this hour. So, I mean, we could certainly ask them, but I just don't know if they'll show up or not.
I've noticed that too. Is like the morning call is pretty consistent numbers of what we usually achieve in the morning calls, and then when we do the one-on-one live streams that usually take place at like 6, 7 p.m. Central time or Eastern time, whatever it is, that's where the numbers get to like 100 and above. Like
right.
When Dan did his and all the other individual ones, that's where like and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because of the different time that it's doing it, or it's just a one-on-one, and everybody now is aware of what that topic is going to be, and it's only going to be that general topic. And so now when you're logging into that, this is what you're going to be learning about, and this is what they're going to be talking about. So I don't know if that's something as well.
Yeah, but I mean, that was the whole purpose of me putting that poll up.
And everybody answered for this time.
This time still. So
I agree.
I just read what PDRE said as well. I respect that, PDRE, with the fact that you disagree about getting rid of people who are inactive because of what they're going through in their lives. We don't know. That's true. We don't. Okay.
Sure.
And so that's a very valid point, in my opinion. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, didn't we have somebody on the other day when I think we mentioned that before, because it was something that we had tossed around before, but then somebody hopped up on stage and they said that they hadn't really been in here in like the last year, and then they just came back in and then landed some like huge deal. And so it's tough because you just never really know, what people are doing outside of this, and stuff happens all the time, and life happens, and then they come back in and then all of a sudden land some huge assignment or some huge under contract deal. So it's tough.
Yeah.
You never
I
want to
agree.
take away someone's access if they really want to be in there. They can't be right now.
Shmood asks, what's a good minimum amount I should have on estimated value on a list? I have no idea what you're talking about, Shmood. Can you please explain that?
Estimated value of the properties, minimum estimated value. I say, what Mike shared with me was you don't necessarily want to go too far above the median home values in whatever market that you're targeting.
Oh, I see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's exactly what I was giving advice to someone today. Yeah. The first thing that you should do is any market that you're working, go find out what just Google median home price, okay? And then that city, okay? In Tampa, in wherever, Texas, wherever, okay? Find that number, stick to plus or minus $25,000 to $50,000 of that. That's where you're going to have the majority of your buyers, and that's what you need to be looking for.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you can just say a blanket minimum value number because it would just be very, very market dependent.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you try to find a $400,000 house here in Southern California, good luck. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you go for $400,000 in Great Falls, Idaho, you're not going to find anything either.
Speaking,
It's too
that's why it's
speaking of Mike Martin,
really
he's in the chat right now. I see him. He's lurking out in the audience there. I see him.
that man cannot enter this room without you. And like sometimes I feel like he just wants to hang out in the shadows. And every time as soon as he gets in here, you announce his presence to the man. Just wants to lurk sometimes.
Because he's the king
He's got
of SMS,
antenna
man.
for ears.
He's the king of SMS. I have to say something, man. We're in the presence of a celebrity here.
That's why the like prop stream filters, for example, that I have set up, it's nice for me to input the filters and then go market to market, but I usually have to update the price parameters as I go market to market, because like you said, if all of a sudden I jump to Scottsdale, Arizona, or some of these higher price markets, my general $100,000 to $300,000 isn't going to yield many results. And so I have to increase it to 500,000, 600,000, 700,000. And then when I get back to like the Alabamas and the Missouris and places like that, now I have to shrink it back down. So it's just really, really market dependent. And same way, know your buyers, know your market as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got Mike Martin acting a fool over in the side chat.
Yeah, he doesn't have time to join us, but he has time to find all these gifts. It's cool.
He's got all the Keeping Up with Kardashian gifts loaded up for the side chat. Thanks, guys. Yeah, hopefully that helped.
All right.
Keep
talking.
Who else
To
has any
clarify,
questions?
I love what Andrew does, by the way. For him, just not for me.
Hey, thanks, Dan. I really, I was about to have a fucking awful day thinking about it, so I really appreciate it.
Thanks for the tough love.
I'm sure my opinion really tears you up, man. I'm sure.
Well, Dan, you do hold a very, very uniquely special place in my heart, and your opinion matters, man.
That sounded sincere. I believe that.
I believe it.
I do believe it.
I do mean it. I do mean it. Look, Dan, I know out of everybody up here that Dan certainly comes from a different, background and angle that we do. So I can say, like, for at least for me, it's nice to be challenged once in a while and nice to see other people's perspective, because there are multiple perspectives that come into play with everything. And I think the goal is to find balance in it all. There's balance in everything. And, I'm not always 100% right. Dan's not always 100% right. None of us are, but there's somewhere to meet in the middle on most things where the value, the feedback is valuable. So I do appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really feedback. I just personally what you do at a very, very, very high level. I just, it's just, I think everybody has a style, has their style for what they want to do, you know what I mean, with how they want to make their money. And that's why I tell people, I think actually I've told a lot of people, I tell a lot of individuals to get into, learning how to do, mortgage wraps and how to learn how to do, creative finance, because, I think at the end of the day, I think if you are a regular person working for the postal service, working for, UPS, working for, a manager at a restaurant or whatever, you can become like rich, like later in life, just by getting in the right positions with real estate. And it's something that literally everyone can get involved with. That's what I love about real estate, is like, you don't have to be like super individualized to really be able to get into real estate. Right. And I think it's so much better of a play than the stock market, because you are choosing and really you can really see your own stocks, right? Whereas like you have to be super individualized to get into the private equity industry. And I only get into private equity when I control at least a percentage or a large percentage of the control of that company. I don't get into anything, like I don't own any stocks. I want to make that clear. I don't own any stocks in anything on the stock market. So I don't own any blue chip stocks or anything like that, just simply because I can't control what those companies do, right? Like if you own stock in Bud Light, you know what I mean, with Anheuser-Busch recently, would you have made the same decisions that they recently made with their marketing situation? Maybe not, but you didn't get to choose that, so therefore you lost money because the stock dropped out, because their company lost money. And that's a situation that happens with a lot of companies in the in the industry overall nationwide. Is you don't get to choose who Nike puts on their sponsorship list, right? If you invest in Nike or you invest in Apple, you don't get to choose what phone or what information that Apple puts out or what Apple chooses to support. So you can go those routes with investing into 401ks, but I think that whole route is a completely, in my opinion, it's a scam. I personally would tell people to get more into real estate, because I think real estate is just as long-term of a play, but it's a safer play at the end of the day. And, to me, I tell more people to get into real estate. I discourage people to get into the private equity industry, because you have to be super individualized to do what I do. So I think overall, individuals like Matt, Bob, and Andrew, sometimes Paul, sometimes if he's on his game and if he's had enough coffee, he can help. You guys can help people get into. You guys can help people have a greater chance to actually become rich in their life more than I can. Like me helping people to get into private equity industry to become rich is very, very, very low, because it requires a lot on them to be able to do what I'm going to teach them how to do. And it's not really something that you can just take any person in any space, just teach them the basics and say, oh yeah, you can do this and get into it and you can become successful. So I think you guys have a higher chance to give more value to society overall, to help more people become, have a higher chance of becoming actually rich and not having to live inside of the rat race that everybody else lives inside of, if you don't want to. Obviously, if you want to go work for Amazon and show up every day for work until you die, I mean, that's, you collect Social Security. I mean, that's, you're more than welcome to do that.
You did make that sound very appealing.
So long as you're happy.
You did put
as long as you're happy, that's all that really matters. If you like packaging boxes for the rest of your life, then by all means. But I personally think that we're all in here right now. UPS paying $50, not necessarily. It's for people that have been there for a very, 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 very long time. So you have to.
You have to sell your soul to.
They are paying a lot per hour.
Yeah, maybe as the
you have to sign a contract of your firstborn and give it to them. No, joking. I don't really know what I don't know if anyone. You have to have been there for a very long time to get those hours.
Matt, have you worked at UPS?
Yes. Overnight, 3 a.m. to 9, 10 a.m. as an unloader, working, and then I worked there.
They are paying people $50 an hour though, who've been there for like 15, 20
maybe
years.
as the truck driver, as the guy.
Yeah, the truck driver. Yeah.
The
truck drivers are
I was getting paid. Yeah. I was getting paid $8. I think it was $8 an hour, and then.
What was minimum wage then, though?
Yeah, it was brutal, and I had to drive an hour. I was living on Northern Illinois' campus, not even going to school there. I was just living with a bunch of friends of mine and then driving an hour to UPS every single day at 3 o'clock in the morning. So while they were still partying or the party was still going, I was sleeping, waking up, going to UPS, doing the unloading thing, became a supervisor, all that nonsense, and then left. And then they have a non-compete, so I couldn't even come back and work for them. So then I had to go work for FedEx after that, and I did the 3 a.m. there. And FedEx was paying $10 an hour, and I was a loader there. It's the most brutal job ever.
And
I've had some bad ones, but that was a brutal one.
That goes back to what Dan was saying earlier about, if you want to have a life that's different from everybody else, you gotta have a different experience. Matt was really putting in that work, 3 a.m. getting up. He wasn't partying at that time, and they may have been sleeping on Matt, man, but he had that vision, man. He said, I'm gonna get these boxes shipped out because one day I'm gonna grow up and I'm gonna be the creative finance guy.
It was wild. They had a promotion. They had a deal that if you became supervisor, they would pay for your rent and your college tuition and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I became supervisor, and that was even worse. And then they paid for my rent at the college campus townhouse. So it was just like all my buddies were going, and they had tuition and they had grants and all. So all of their stuff was getting paid for free, and I was driving an hour every single day, literally an hour on the expressway. It was like a 66-mile drive or something like that to go to UPS, and then to get my, I think they paid $350 a month towards my rent. And that's what my rent was at the townhouse, because I lived with like 6 other guys in this townhouse.
It's amazing how these companies sink their claws into you so that it's so hard to get away from them. They pay you just enough so that you're happy but miserable at the same time and can't move forward because you're, quote unquote, the potential of losing so much.
That was the thing. It's that initial excitement of being like, oh, I'm finally from an unloader to a supervisor, and you feel like you got in the club, right? Like you were an unloader, you were a piece of shit for the longest time. Nobody cared about you. They were like, unload this because we got 17 more coming in. Let's go. It's 4 a.m. Why are we not on the 5th truck yet? You're just tearing the wall down and putting it on the. And then you finally get in the supervisor club and you think you made it and you're like, yeah, I'm one of them now. And then they just treat you like ass there too. But now you need the money. You need the $350 a month that they're paying towards your rent. Otherwise you can't continue doing what you're doing. And so, yeah, it's a race you can't get out of. It's crazy.
Big Play J. I have a lead who hasn't gone through probate on a property her brother owned. Brother has passed away and the heir was an 8-year-old who's in foster care. Should I recommend her to start probate process with her cat? Who are you recommending?
Where's he getting his data, dude? That's what I want to know. How does he know this stuff?
So he's probably had a conversation with, quote unquote, the lead. Realistically, you need to find out who the owner of the house is. Okay, if it's the 8-year-old, they can't sign anything, even if you give them those 50 Robux that John recommended. So
if man just lost his father, Jesus Christ.
Now I get the joke. I didn't know he was 8 years old. Now I understand the joke.
Little man just lost his dad living in foster care. Talking about giving him Roblox. Jesus.
Sorry. So if the owner really is the 8-year-old, you need to find out who the guardian of that 8-year-old is. And if they're in foster care, why don't they have a guardian? It's just some things just are not adding up. Okay, so you need to find out if truly the 8-year-old is the heir and owner of that property. You need to find out who their guardian is. And then you need to deal with them. And more than likely, yes, you are going to have to start the probate process. So I hope that helps. But good luck. That's a high-hanging fruit, my friend.
Carolyn have a question? Wait, she's muted.
Good morning, Carolyn.
Good morning.
Y'all remember the morning announcements and stuff?
Carolyn, your mic's muted.
What?
Yeah, I try to forget.
We're reminiscing over here.
So I had to switch the
Carolyn,
topic,
Carolyn, we can't hear you. Your mic's muted.
I'm sorry, man. I feel like that came off really insensitive.
Oh, about the robot? I think we're good. I think you're
We've already passed.
Yeah, you guys passed, but I feel like trash after saying that.
I already threw the holy water on that comment, so I think we're good.
John was just sitting on that couch letting it really sink in. He's like, oh man.
Wait a minute.
That feels like the first time that I actually had a real conversation with Dan. This is when I initially started in this community. And
I remember this. Bob texted me the night that I almost went to jail.
Really?
Ironically enough.
Really?
Bob texted me at dinner when I was at dinner, and I was already like gone, and Bob like sends me this message. I see this like long message from Bob in my DMs. Like, I really haven't spoken to Bob one-on-one. And
Yeah,
Bob's
never.
like, Dan,
Before that.
Bob's like, Dan, I just want to say, man, I was in your thing earlier today when you were calling sellers live on the
Wait, let's
phone.
clarify that. What do you mean? He's talking about his show, guys. Nothing else. He was on a live making.
I was on a
phone
live
calls.
show making phone calls.
Live phone calls.
I was making phone calls to sellers, and there was we were closing.
Yep.
We were closing. I was closing PPC leads live on the phone, and Bob Bob had said something in the comments about offer creative. Is that what you said? Maybe I think that's what.
Yeah, I said,
right?
hey, why don't you offer creative or something?
Why don't
like
you
that?
offer creative? And I guess someone had reached out to you and told you that I had already pitched creative.
Yeah,
and so he didn't know that. So
I wasn't paying attention.
I
was
knew
doing
Bob
two
had
things at
joined
the same
in late, so I knew. So I didn't even say like, "Oh, I already did that" or whatever. I was just like, "Oh, like he wasn't here when I was already pitching creative." So I said, he writes me this big long message, and I haven't really spoken to Bob one on one. I'm like reading this message, and I was like, hold on one second. I was in the middle of like a conversation. I was like, wait. I was like, Bob Sadai just messaged me on Discord. I was like, I have to read this. Like, who's Bob Sadai? I'm like, you don't know who Bob Sadai is. So anyways, I was sitting there like reading this message. And then Bob was like, man, I just want to say, man, like I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have said that. You're clearly a man that knows what he's doing inside of the calls, and I didn't mean to make you feel like you're an amateur or what. And I was like, Bob, we're good, we're cool, don't worry about it. Like it's all good. Definitely did not take it personally, but yeah, I was. Ever since then, me and Bob have been friends. So that was.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. But that's exactly how I felt, John. I felt like shit. I'm like, God damn it! Why did I even say that to this guy? And so I felt I kept on thinking about it the whole day, and then at night I said, I got to write to this guy and apologize. So yeah, I know how that feels, John. Don't worry.
I've seen John over the last 5 minutes just slowly getting lower on his camera because he's just sinking into the couch, just letting it sink in.
This guy, I love how over here on the side chat, then you have Matt and this guy Jerry like having a debate on who's.
Oh, let us have some time, will you? Let us have our moment.
Who's more Illinois? I started a debate live on the show in the side chat. I casually said Matt is the most Illinois guy you'll ever meet, and this guy took it personally, and now him and Matt are having a debate on who is more Illinois. He just threw
up a Walter Payton.
Yeah. I think he might win. on that one, man. I don't know.
But my DJ name would be DJ Illinois.
My DJ name would be DJ Illinois.
I like that. No.
Midwest, baby. Carolyn, help us, please.
Take care, Andrew. We appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew.
Peace, bro.
Carolyn is.
See, this is what happens when we go off topic. Andrew just leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah, Andrew's like, I got real work to do, guys.
These fools are just yapping. I got work to do.
Some hedge funds calling him.
I love when people like jump on the stage and then leave us in suspense of like what their question would have been.
Oh man,
it's sick, DJ.
Carolyn, can you hear? Can you type to us? Can you say anything in the side chat?
SOS.
I feel like I'm like talking to a ghost inside of a dark house. I'm like, can you hear me? Are you there? if you can hear us, give us a sign that you're listening.
Do you know how to do SOS?
You know how to do SOS.
Oh.
They left. Sorry, Carolyn.
Yeah.
Right to speak.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
If I call an agent and I know that the house has low equity, should I pitch sub 2 from the start, or how should I go about it?
Say that again?
If I call an agent and the house has low equity, should I pitch sub 2 from the start, or how should I go about that?
I always start with cash. I don't know about Matt, but I always start with cash to see what the exact lowest bottom line number is, and then I segue into probably novation and then into subject to or creative.
But it's listed on market, right?
Oh, it's listed on market?
Calling an agent.
Unless you're talking about a different type of novation, not the retail buyer program.
No. Yeah, the retail buyer program. So if it's listed, then forget it. Yeah, it's just lowest cash offer and then to subject to.
Yeah, I don't think there's a wrong answer for that. I think it would just depend on the conversation, I suppose. The cash anchor is always a good starting point if you want to go that route. And if you know the loan balance and you know it, so then when you know that when you pitch your cash, they're not going to be able to accept it because and so during you offering cash, the agent might then disclose like they can't because they owe X amount of dollars, and then that opens up the creative conversation. So I think it just depends on your conversation up until that point, whether you think putting out a cash offer is the best route in that scenario, if it's going to bear some fruit in that conversation, or I go in my conversations more of a confirmation. I want to confirm the information I have on my side, because if it is correct, then I think this would be a good, I think sub 2 or creative would be a good strategy for this property. So I don't think either way is a bad option.
Yeah.
I think cash is great because likely they won't be able to accept a cash offer, and then that would open up the conversation to why they can't accept a cash offer, and painting that picture of why creative and sub 2 is probably a better option for them.
One of the great things that I love about one of the looms that you put up, Matt, is you were explaining sub 2 to an agent and seller at the same time, and the very first thing you said is, hey, you know what? I'm an investor. I'm not the type of person that's going to move in with their family and go, I love this place. I'm going to live in here. Perfect explanation. Okay. So if you do that right off the bat, they know that, hey, you're not an end buyer and you are actually there trying to make sense with the numbers. So don't bring me any emotional crap.
Emotion, exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
Don't tell me, oh, look at the views and the this and that. I don't care. Okay. All I care about is how can we make the numbers work so that we both can come out as winners on this. So I love that. So the way,
numbers don't lie. And yeah, I agree. Like, again, especially if it's something that's on market, it's been on the market for 30, 60, 90 days. The traditional market, the person walking in with a loan, they're the ones that care about the views, and they're the ones that, they walk in husband and wife or partner and partner, and they say to each other, oh, can you imagine raising our family here and our kids playing in the back? None of those things are happening in my head. I don't care about any of those things. I care about the numbers. Here's my numbers on the long-term rents and whatever other exit strategies. So yeah, I don't care about any of those things, which makes it easier because now we don't have to get into the emotion stuff. We don't have to get into the what ifs. Here's the numbers. Are these correct? If so, here's how we should possibly get to the next step.
Agree. 100%. I still listen to that conversation of yours once in a while. There are a lot of nuggets in that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I learned from Matt.
Did you get your roses, Matt? Did you get your roses?
I love passing out some flowers. But vice versa too. I reached out to you the other day on I forget what it was, but I always you're never too far advanced for anything in terms of I still get things sometimes, and I'll be like, all right, who can help me on this, or who would know about this? And I reached out to Bob the other day on something. I forget what it was now at this point, but
VA loan.
That was the VA loan. Yeah. And that actually that was huge. So I actually requested him on Facebook, and I sent them over all of his contact. That video was like,
isn't it phenomenal? I gave it to Dan too.
It's perfect because, it's just like, that's my plan. Like, I do all my Loom videos and my recordings just for like the community and just for sharing in general, and possibly I'll repurpose it and put it, for something else. But my plan is to create my own videos for that, for his exact purpose too. Like, I want to be able to send that to sellers. I want to be able to send that to agents, because I just got one this morning in San Antonio, Texas. I sent out an offer probably 5 or 6 days ago, and the agent emailed me this morning, and she's like, I need to understand this. I need you to explain this, something along those lines. Mm-hmm. And could I type out an email and explain it?
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly.
How far is that going to get? How, whatever. I love videos because if it's a 2-minute or less video, you can sit there and I can explain everything. I can screen share. I can show all the things I need to in it. It just helps in that situation. So I want to, I want to be able to record videos to be able to send in those scenarios. Because like Matt Bell, that's a perfect example. Like the VA thing is complicated, and I have 3 of them right now on the table. All 3 want to accept, but that's their big question. And so it's perfect to have somebody like that and who made a video and hey, this is a mortgage professional. This guy is telling you here's how we get it done. So that was a huge help from you. So I appreciate that.
Of course.
Bob, where are your Loom videos, man? We got to see some of those.
Yeah, I got to start making them.
I told Bob about Loom a minute ago, and he hit me back with, "Do you use this personally?" I said, "No, not yet, man. But I've seen a lot of people using Loom. You got to get on Loom."
I like Loom. I like Bomb Bomb. Bomb Bomb's another one that's really
Bomb
nice.
Bomb's good. Yeah,
I like all of those. But yeah, Bob's probably a killer on the phone because you have that nice. Again, my Achilles heel is I can get heated on a conversation, especially with agents, and so I've been a lot better than I used to be. But you're probably just so nice and smooth and just relaxed and have a nice,
I'm just having a conversation with a friend. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I tell them as it is, hey, you know what? This is going to work for us because of this, and that, or it's just not going to work for us because this, and that. So, Yeah,
that's what I was telling like Xander and those guys too. I'm like, you guys are going to be great on the phone because even if someone's heated on the other side, you have the ability to remain calm during those situations. And if someone's yelling at you one-sidedly and they're being a dick to you and they're being aggressive, and you continue to remain calm, hopefully at some point they're realizing like, I'm giving it out, but this person's not like, they don't want to fight. They don't want like, why am I being like this? And you have a higher likelihood of them calming down and getting to that end point of where you both want to be, as opposed to if they get heated and then I get heated right back and now we're both just yelling at each other and then nothing gets accomplished then at that point. So
yeah.
Bob is very pleasant on the phone.
I heard Matt Riley mention, I don't know if everybody else in the audience caught this. He said he's getting a couple videos together. He said he might repurpose it for something special. We are anxiously awaiting that course, Matt.
I feel like there's a few things we're waiting on from you as well. But I feel like at certain points we'll be addressing that as well publicly.
Let me know. Let's get a list together and let's get it knocked out. I'll get my spreadsheet ready.
Let's get my whiteboard out and I'll clear it off finally, and we'll whiteboard out all the things we need to do.
It's funny, Matt. I was just envisioning like what my life's going to look like in the next couple months, and I was really thinking like, man, I got to get another whiteboard. I need one.
Dude,
of those.
It's key.
It's so key. It's so key.
I used to not think it was important. I used to just be like, oh, I can just keep it all. I'll just say it in my head, and then your brain can only handle so much. You're like, You have like a Rolodex in your brain. You're like, hold on, I got to remember. Like, you'll see me if you were paying attention. If there's cameras, you would see me every once in a while. I'll just be like this, and it's just me trying to like push 50 things aside to get to the one thing I'm trying to remember. When I actually get that whiteboard out and like putting pen to paper and actually writing it out and getting it out and onto something, that is so huge. I reference that thing all the time. I look back at it, or like being able to write out deals or write out, like actually seeing it there gets it out, and I can even remember it better even too.
Definitely agree. Because you got to think about doing like menial stuff. You got to think about eating, laundry, these kinds of things pop up in your brain. You forget. But to have it in front
That's
of you.
all I see you talking about in the chats is, I got to go eat. All you're doing is eating lately.
Yeah, man. When you want to get as big as me, something got to do.
All right.
Dan's rolling his eyes at that comment.
Has anybody got a land course? You got a land course, John?
Oh, man, please don't kill me. Don't kill me. I would say reach out to Mr. Jason Casco. I see he's making moves. He's putting together.
Is he? Is he really?
I see he's.
Cool.
I see he's putting together some stuff. I see he's moving and grooving.
Okay.
So,
good.
I will say, get in touch with Jason. See if he's around.
I did a coffee with Jason and for his little networking group out in Dallas.
Dude, I thought you had to go, man. What are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Oh, my calls are done.
You're too good for us.
My calls are done.
My calls are
My calls are done.
the train just keeps hopping on and off. I don't know what stops.
Right. No consistent schedule on this railway.
Yeah, dude, I bought a ticket. I don't know where we even are anymore. We just hop on and off.
All aboard.
He's spontaneous, except when I ask him to do something spontaneous. Then he's out of the question. Out of the question.
I love the lingering, slight hostility.
I'm never letting you go. Never letting you go.
I wouldn't.
What's the cameras when you get in that laptop, Paul?
Actually, this week.
Oh, this week. All right.
He said that last week.
Hold on, I'm putting it.
No. It's actually happening though. I'm actually going to Micro Center, which is a store here for computers and shit. Yeah, Micro Center's got some sweet deals. I'm gonna go buy some stuff.
Micro
That's where
Center
I got
sounds
my
like
laptop
your local,
from.
like your local cyberhead who's got like a hand that's made out of like mechanical, doing like their own mechanical prosthetics in the
Cool,
back
man.
room.
Thank you so much, dude.
Drop some fire in the chat if you want to see that next week.
God.
I would love.
We set an event in REI Rev.
Steve's face reveal.
There you go. That's accountability. And Bob just boomed you.
John Johnson said drop some fire in the chat to support Steve's train to get a camera for next week.
Oh, God.
Drop some train emojis.
That's too funny.
But I think we got some sort of options here now moving forward in terms of like what we possibly want to do on the morning calls and kind of have like this general discussion, which I think is great, and in answering questions, and then maybe just doing some more like individualized spotlights too every once in a while and kind of going there. So I think it should be good. And I think like Bob was saying, Bob put out the poll and everybody agreed that this is the time slot that works. So I think we just got to ride it out until then.
I also want to hear from the audience. What do you guys want to see from us? I mean, Kishore just left. Dang it. He sent me a text about some ideas. I wish he was here that he could come on and talk about it. But it was very similar to what Andrew was saying as well, which is basically just come in for like 10, 20 minutes, talk about a particular topic, and then teach, and then open it up for Q&A. It can be about that topic or anything else. But if anybody else has other ideas that you'd like us to implement for you guys, let us know. I mean, we're always open to ideas. You know, no stripping. What are the other no's that we won't do?
Oh my goodness. I can't believe this. The face that Matt made after hearing that comment was just something else.
He was disappointed. All right, Matt and Dan will strip, but you know, I won't.
Dan's pretending he's against it. He's like, no, please.
What? I didn't even hear. I didn't even hear what was going on.
Yeah,
I was asking for comment suggestions, and I said, but we won't do any stripping, except Dan and Matt.
I don't know how I got turned into it.
Yeah, I don't know.
John's 190.
This means we simultaneously.
Yeah, same
or
time.
can we do
Same
it?
time.
Oh,
Same time.
I'm out.
Same
I'm
time.
out.
Same time.
I also want to encourage people.
We know Paul. Paul can't even turn on his camera, but we know Paul.
He's probably stripping right now. We don't
Get a
know.
picture of his face.
I have had some questionable sessions, like not appropriately dressed for these. You know, in my PJs still.
Ooh, you've
I was gonna say, dude, you really got to clarify what's going on there.
Yeah. No, I'm not naked or anything, but just like, you know.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah,
we wouldn't know. We wouldn't know regardless.
You wouldn't know.
We wouldn't know regardless.
Hey, but also,
Yeah, I think
if there's anybody in the audience that just feels like they vibe or jive with us, just please raise your hand and come up and participate, because we want to really bring this to you all and see, you know, everybody engage. We want to really create an opportunity for everybody to really take advantage of the platform. We got Ricky coming up. What's up, Ricky? That's interesting.
What's up, guys?
He decided to join
You
us
good?
after that last conversation.
Well, I've been hearing it's the first time I ever saw what you're doing here, and I'm from Portugal, not US. So
What time is it there? It's like boa noite.
6 p.m.
Como vai você?
Glad to have you here.
Yeah, but nice discussion there. I'm learning also a lot from you, so I wanted to share something.
What's up?
Mostly it. I don't know how. I'm trying to make my connections all around, not just here, because Portugal is having lots of people looking for it, at least in real estate, it seems so.
I did
I feel it.
this business from Brazil. So I think you could definitely do it from Portugal. And I would just
Nice.
suggest, I don't know anything about the Portuguese real estate market in terms of being in Portugal, but go to local real estate meetups, get around people in your market, your local market there. And you might even connect with investors that might be interested in international investing in the United States market. But you're definitely in the right place. You're amongst the right people. I know multiple people
Yeah,
in
yeah.
here that are doing this
Say we got a
business.
couple international investors in here.
Yeah.
Oh, nice, that's
Welcome to the
awesome.
club. Welcome to the club.
Okay, that's awesome. I have some connections already, even American investors. I haven't closed with them, but I made some business here, and mostly people from outside Portugal, Chineses, and every kind of people. I don't know. Everyone wants to buy real estate here. I don't know if it's a tic-tac bomb or it's just going to be like this. Maybe it will continue like this. I don't know. The
Yeah.
thing is, Portugal is so small. It's really small. You can buy a piece of land 30 minutes from the beach and close to cities and the beach and still make like an outstanding property there. It's stupid. It's just like that. But yeah.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, I don't think it's a TikTok boom. I don't think that if that's like a concern of yours, if you're just starting out real estate and you're wondering if like, oh, is this
Just for a
You know.
moment.
yeah, I think it just in general a lot more eyes are being brought to a lot more things with social media and every new platform that comes out that allows more eyeballs to something. So just like drop shipping and crypto and everything else, there's just more eyeballs and more attention on things. Which is great. But again, outside of that, there's international investors in here. My guy Eduardo, who is in the audience, Eduardo's in here. He's in Argentina. He's an international investor. He's got a bunch of Argentinian investors that want to invest in U.S. real estate as well, and he's doing it creatively. So plenty of people in here that you can connect with and figure out, a good plan to move forward and
That's
whether
nice.
you're representing investors or you guys want to invest yourself.
Well, no, I'm just an agent, a normal agent. I have properties. I want to sell them. Of course, I'm doing my work to investors as much as persons to live in the house. Sorry about my English. So, yeah. I have several deals here because I work with an engineer, civil engineer, and she has 20 years of construction. So there's flips and there's buying a piece of land, building there and selling with lots of margins, and that it's a great place to be with. I'm lucky in general.
That's awesome.
Good man, yeah, that does sound awesome.
Yeah. With time, I'll be able to connect with you. Yeah.
Yeah, shoot me a DM, man.
But this is like you make this regularly, or it's my first time here?
Every day, Monday through
Yes.
Friday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Incredible. That's awesome. I'll pass
And
by more
he can
often.
watch the replay too, can he, on YouTube?
You can watch the replay on YouTube. I'm gonna add that. YouTube.com/REI Rev.
That's awesome. Well, nice to be here, guys, and I'll be connecting. and listening and learning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Ricky.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Dude, Real Jerry is still showing me up in the side chat with all this Chicago,
Yeah.
Illinois jabs. I have to take my throne off.
Yeah.
Or my
You better be
You are
careful.
no longer the king of Illinois.
yeah.
He's moving out of Illinois, Jerry. So I mean, you might have to take that.
That's
spot,
why.
man.
The real reason I didn't tell you guys the real reason is because he's running me out of town. I can't even live here anymore. So I'm out.
How awesome! Que asombroso.
Why you guys should have started?
I
was
tried.
there-
He
was
wasn't.
there-
He wasn't. He wasn't diving. He wasn't. He didn't pay attention.
He didn't want to.
I don't know.
Want to reciprocate.
I think my mic might be a little low in comparison to everybody else's. I've kind of watched some of the replays, but I threw out a little bit of Portuguese there. But Brazilian Portuguese is different than Portugal Portuguese, so there's that.
Right.
But
There's always an excuse.
when it's John Johnson, oof.
When it's JJ from Brazil,
You know, everybody thinks I'm a Brazilian until I open my mouth, man. Then I'm the gringo. Everybody in the world, they said the same thing in Argentina. Are you Brazilian? I miss Argentina. I want to go back eventually, but not now. I think I'm Miami bound, man. I want to go to Miami.
Man, how do you find those limb videos, Matt? Where do you find those at?
how do you find the Loom videos?
That was her
I
question.
gotta make a channel for Loom videos, and then
I was gonna
post
say I
everything
don't.
there.
I tell
I
you
don't
what,
know if-
Bob, I like that you brought that up. I think that we do need to do a little bit of a makeover. I think I tried to move some of the channels off the side and put it in the server guide channel. But I think we should kind of focus on, in terms of the Discord, when people come to the Discord, all the contracts and that other stuff. That might even be the reason why we haven't gotten partnered yet, is because that all that stuff is on the Discord. It could create liability for them. They don't want that kind of stuff. But I think on Discord, giving people a place to connect in terms of chatting, and then to also watch media like a learning center. That was one thing that I took away from the call, with a very powerful entity that we are talking to right now. We were chopping it up, and they suggested that they are going to start their own platform and have a specific area talking about a learning center. So I think smart people connect for a reason, and having a learning center for people to consume media, and maybe even like a step-by-step kind of thing. You know, man, I hate to even say this stuff because Matt, he's just going to hold me accountable. He's going to be, John, what's going on with this stuff?
baby.
You know?
Watch this back on the YouTube replay. Go ahead. Go on.
And I think that'd be cool. Drop some fire in the chat if you guys want to see us do that. If you guys want to see us make a learning center media section where people can watch like step by step how to get started in wholesaling. Maybe we can get some stuff going for agents, flippers, landlords, and of course creative masterminds. We'll have to collaborate with Mr. Matt Riley and Bob Sedai, the man, the myth, the legend. So that's
Yeah, I
that's
don't
what
know.
I got for
What
you.
your. I don't know what your. Like you said, clean up the channels and stuff, because like review calls is great for like the audio, but like I don't like if people want to start doing videos and things like that, to have like a resource video channel or something like that, I guess, when then everybody can drop all their stuff in there.
Would you guys be interested? Because I used to do this with my when I used to have like an in-office team. Every Wednesday we would do, or it was Tuesdays and Thursdays we would do role play. So we would do we would get on and they would have like a scenario to try to buy my house, right? And they would treat me like they were talking to me over the phone as a lead. And they would try to talk to me, and I would basically we would have a whole scenario to where they would try to buy my house and try to get all the correct motivation and everything out of me. And then at the end, I would kind of like rate their performance and kind of tell them what they did wrong and change and show them what they did to get fixed. I'd be interested in maybe taking an hour out of my week on one day or 2 days a week if you guys were interested in something like that. But obviously we would need at least,
10 to 15 people or, such who are willing to, contribute. So,
Yeah, I think that's huge and important, especially for new people who you see a lot of people that are scared. They want to jump in, but they're so scared of what that phone call is going to be and what to expect on that phone call. And so I think to go through those dry runs with people here, whether it's with Dan or whoever else, Dan can play the hostile homeowner to give you all of the objectives that to give you.
I'm not always a hostile homeowner. Sometimes I play along.
You got to hear Dan on the phone when he's talking to these sellers that are hostile, man. That's really the side of
he
Dan.
does a great job.
Yeah, man. Anything for you, boss? No worries, man. What do we got to do, man? Get this done, man.
We can play one. We can play one. We can find one. We can drop it in the chat.
Yeah, I think, but I think that's important too, because not only will you be able to uncover objections that you'll receive, but also like tonality and like the importance of how to talk to people and not do it in like a script format that I think a lot of people are used to, and kind of being more conversational, being able to talk to many different people. I was thinking about this morning when I was getting ready, of like, a lot of people here are super young, 17, 18, 19 years old. And it's just from like an experience thing. They're not used to talking to people. They're not used to talking to like adults, middle-aged people, older people, especially in like a professional capacity of like, I'm trying to buy your house. I'm trying to have this like professional conversation with you. So it's very intimidating, and it's hard to have a conversation, like a natural conversation with people in that capacity. So I think it's good for people to get that experience talking to different types of people in a role play setting. So that way, when you do talk to a 40-year-old homeowner or a 30-year-old or a 60, whoever in that capacity, you're familiar already and you know how to navigate those conversations.
Yeah, and another thing we could do is, like, if you don't want to do the role play, but you have a specific seller that you're working with that you would like to talk to, you can bring that situation into that hour, and we could jump on the call together. And that way, in case the call starts going south or whatever, I can kind of help you navigate the conversation. So I'm sure that would be valuable to some people.
Yes, sir.
All right, gentlemen. Bob's got to go. You know what that means. It means that we must be lazy, not getting on the phones here. And I got to get my calories, so... Y'all hungry? Who's hungry? I'm hungry.
Uh-oh.
I'm trying to become a menace. I want to be that guy that walks in the room and like everybody's head turns. Oh my God, who is that guy? That's going to be John Johnson walking in. I'm going to be proud as fuck, just being me, just to be alive. Everybody looking at me.
Give your outro.
Everybody looking at me. You know what I'm saying? I get the little hand gesture. You know what I'm saying? All right, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, please consider inviting somebody you think will benefit from being in proximity with us. You can find the replays that we make on YouTube, youtube.com/@REI Revolution. Make sure to follow us on Instagram as well, @REI Revolution, and tag us on your stories. Let people know in your circle where you spend your time. With that being said, I appreciate you all for joining us, and we will catch you in the next one.